This is the WrestleBread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee here, and this is episode 92 of the WrestleBread Podcast. So I decided to stream live on Thursday this week because we had New Year's Smash, we had New Year's Evil as well, we had a confusing ass Raw, and I figured it's easier to just do everything on Thursday and just recap everything instead of waiting for a whole new week. And I might actually start streaming on Thursdays from now on just so I can recap Dynamite and NXT, because between that and SmackDown, it seems like the better portion of the week to kind of report on instead of, talking about Raw, which really wasn't a good Raw this week. So first off, a lot happening in the world. We had the riots yesterday at the Capitol building. And all I'm gonna say is that that's fucking ridiculous. It's a federal building. Windows were smashed. People had broken into the offices of senators and representatives, taking pictures of themselves. And I hope every single person that broke into that building gets arrested, because you get in more trouble breaking windows of a supermarket than breaking windows of a federal building. There's something completely wrong with that. I was watching the footage while I was working, and it's just a crazy situation. And the craziest thing is that people don't realize, with politics, there are no winners. Yeah, that's why, the left, the right, and then there's people who's just sitting here just trying to survive another day in this crazy world. So, it's the craziest thing I ever seen. The fact that the Capitol building was taken over like that, and it's the first time that has happened since 1812. It's crazy. But I just hope, people learn their lesson as far as the government, and to know that maybe next time, whenever there is any type of rallies downtown and you have a very important thing going on at the Capitol building, like counting the electoral votes, that maybe you should think, let's beef up security a little bit around here. I mean, they beef up security whenever, like, the Olympics or something like that goes on, or not even the Olympics, just period. Whenever something goes on, you tend to beef up security. And so hopefully, next time they'll beef up security. I hope they beef up security on January 20th, because we may go through some crap like this again. But that's all I got to say about that. So for this week, we had a lot of wrestling going on, and I'm going to get into some news as well. So first off, if you have been living under a rock, you probably don't know that Goldberg is back. He popped up at the end of Raw, cut some weird-ass promo to Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre mentioned that fighting him will be like fighting his dad. And then Goldberg then pushed Drew McIntyre down, and that was the end of Raw, which was a very confusing thing to watch. And, to everyone's surprise, he has come back to face Drew McIntyre instead of Roman Reigns. And allegedly, it was supposed to be Roman Reigns, because they had that little bit of a build of Goldberg constantly bringing up Roman Reigns during interviews and things like that, saying that Roman Reigns is scared of him, Roman Reigns can't even do a spear right, stuff like that. And now we have him versus Drew McIntyre. And so the rumor is, according to Wrestling Observer Radio, is that the reason why we got Goldberg versus Drew McIntyre is because allegedly WWE does not have anyone who they feel is ready enough for Drew McIntyre, which is a little bit confusing. I mean, you could build up something between him and Sheamus. I mean, they've been putting the seeds in there for Sheamus and Drew McIntyre to go against each other. They could definitely build towards that. Maybe not Keith Lee. I don't feel like Keith Lee is quite ready. I mean, Keith Lee is just getting some of his movesets back. Who else? They can't really do Randy Orton because more likely they're going to have Randy Orton against The Fiend once again. I can't really think of too many other people, but they could have definitely used Sheamus. Or they could even had used, I don't know, but not Goldberg. I mean, the reason why people do not want Goldberg to come back into the WWE is exactly the reason why what happened. He's coming back basically so that he can, feel better about himself and immediately get a damn title shot, which is annoying because it doesn't do anyone any good. So I'm hoping that this time around, Drew McIntyre will defeat Goldberg, because if Goldberg wins the title, all he's going to do is carry it around for a couple of months, feel good about himself, and then drop it to whoever again. But I am happy that he's not going against Roman Reigns. I know that a lot of people are saying The Rock, and then some people are like, well, why the part-time or something like that? This don't even have to be for the title, truthfully. The Rock coming back for the Roman Reigns match, it fits the actual storyline. For Roman Reigns to sit here and say that he is at the head of the table, The Rock is actually related to Roman Reigns. So it would kind of make sense for The Rock to come back and say, hey, I'm the real head of the table. I'm the one who's taking care of the family. I'm the movie star, blah, 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 blah. Roman Reigns could cut up a damn promo, say you're, whatever. You're not even around here. You don't even speak to the family, stuff like that. That it makes sense for The Rock and Roman Reigns to go against each other storyline-wise. You don't even have to throw the title in there. It doesn't make sense for Goldberg to go against Roman Reigns because it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. And there was an article that was put out where they were saying for even Sting to get the AEW Championship. And for that, I say no. I know he had a match in WWE for the WWE Championship when he went against Seth Rollins, but there is no reason to put the title on Sting anyway. What they're doing with Sting works perfectly fine. He is there. He is, seems like he's teaming up with Darby. He's putting over Darby, and I am fine with that type of role. But just coming in and, you want to puff up your chest and say, you're next and push down Drew McIntyre, which I laughed at that part. And then they cut it, so your champion don't even get a rebuttal. Your champion can't even look strong because you want to feed the ego of someone who just doesn't know how to not put someone else over. Another piece of news as well is that allegedly Ria Ripley is going to be called up to the main roster. I don't know how to feel about that. There is such a big difference between the booking when it comes to NXT and the booking on the main roster, especially with the women. If you're not one of the 4 horsewomen, or Asuka, I would say. I mean, somewhat Asuka. I mean, when Asuka was last champion, she barely was on TV. But if you're not one of the 4 horsewomen, I'm afraid for you. So I don't know how Rhea Ripley is going to go with that. I mean, if she gets called up, they're gonna put her with Charlotte. We've seen that before. We saw how that went. I mean, I don't know what path they're gonna have her go, especially once we get Becky back. Once we get Becky back, the 4 horsewomen are all there, and that's pretty much all that is going to be about. And I always say they have the talent to do it. I mean, most of the roster now are people who came from NXT, so you know, good matches and good feuds can be done. It's just the booking that they do with the women. It's not going to make any sense. And I do like Rhea Ripley. It does feel like she has done enough in NXT. There's not really much for her to do. So it feels like there's nothing for her to do except for her to get moved up. But I don't want her to get moved up and she just is kind of like there. Like, I don't want her to turn out like Shayna. I mean, look what happened with Shayna this week. She got defeated by, did she win? I mean, she has a feud with Dana Brooke. I think she got pinned. Maybe not. I forgot. Monday was too far away. But I am about to go through the Monday recaps as well. And then another piece of news, of course, you probably heard by now, AEW Dynamite is moving locations due to the cold temperature. Even though they're in Florida, it is getting a bit more colder outside down there. So they're going to move locations. And it's supposed to work into their next pay-per-view. I didn't really read where they're supposed to go, but I'm sure it's going to be open door, or maybe a place with a retractable roof, because they are trying to have fans, still in the stands as well. So let's see. Let's go into Raw. And looking, Dana Brooke did defeat Shayna Basler. So there you go. The difference with booking, ladies and gentlemen. So Monday Night Raw was all about legends. You know, whenever WWE gets stuck with their booking, what they do, they normally do Legends Night, Raw, recap or whatever. They start bringing back people. And normally, when you have legends come back, you're supposed to feel excited. You're supposed to say, oh man, look who it is. I haven't seen this person in so long. But with WWE, they bring back these legends pretty much like every 6 months. So it's not really like, oh snap, it's Hulk Hogan. You don't really get that feeling because, they use Hulk Hogan for, damn near pretty much any event. So they had Hulk Hogan. We saw Mark Henry. Who else we saw? We saw Sergeant Slaughter. We saw Tatanka, which you probably wouldn't know who he is if he wasn't in full gear backstage during the segment where he was there with Mickie James. We saw Alicia Fox. We saw Tori Wilson. We saw Teddy Long. Teddy Long did hit, of course, one-on-one with The Undertaker. Who else did we see? I mean, we saw Ron Simmons, and it's just like there's not really that much excitement with Legends Night because all these legends we've seen. They even had Ric Flair there. I mean, Ric Flair is pretty much at every major pay-per-view event because of his daughter. So, it's not really as exciting as WWE really wants it to be. Let's see. So starting out, of course, they had Hulk Hogan cut a promo. Now I was cooking dinner at this time, and so when I saw Hulk Hogan cut his promo, I kind of tuned him out. And it's not because it's cool to not like Hulk Hogan. I never really was a Hulk Hogan fan. The first time I really experienced Hulk Hogan was WrestleMania 9, where he came out of nowhere after a title match. And then immediately got a title match and immediately won the title. That was my first impression from Hulk Hogan, and that left such a bad taste in my mouth. Now, Hollywood Hulk Hogan was pretty cool. I give him that. But the red and yellow Hulk Hogan, I'm not cool with him. He was my John Cena growing up, and I don't mean the good kind of John Cena. He was the John Cena to me growing up, with just constantly winning everything, title shot, and then he goes in, does a leg drop, and that's it. Now, last week on Raw, we had left with a cliffhanger where Alexa Bliss was asking Randy Orton to set her on fire, and she poured gasoline on herself. We see the lights go out, very like the Fiend, and then we see Randy Orton light a match and standing in front of a camera. He starts putting it towards the camera. The announcers start going crazy, and that was the end of Raw, which makes no sense because this isn't like, a soap opera or anything. We're gonna tune in next week. I mean, we might not, but it's not like, oh, wait till next week to see what happens. But that was, I guess, their intention. And so when we come to Raw, we expect the answers of the cliffhanger. Normally when there's a cliffhanger, you kind of continue on, pick up where you left off. But instead, we start off with Hulk Hogan, and then we get Miz TV. Miz TV, Miz and John Morrison. Of course, years ago, they definitely would have been so funny. But now, they have their moments. They do. They have their moments, but it's starting to slowly run its course. The New Day then comes out. They're going back and forth. And then that's when we had Teddy Long come out and say, Miz and Morrison, you're going one-on-one with The Undertaker. But of course, it turned into a tag team match against the two tag teams. And so we have no answer as to, hey, did Alexa Bliss get set on fire? Are we going to see a recap what happened after Raw? We'll see a dummy version of her get set on fire. Or, did he blow out the candle? Did the Fiend show up? Like, give us a little something. So we get the tag team match. The New Day wins, and it was an okay match. It didn't blow me away or anything like that. It does nothing. I mean, it's nothing done storyline wise, so it did nothing for me. Let's see. After that, we get AJ Styles versus Elias, which that felt like kind of out of nowhere for me. I don't know what they're trying to do with Elias either. I mean, AJ Styles kind of came from a title shot, so I don't know where he's going to eventually go. I kind of don't want him to go through a feud with Elias, so I'm hoping that this was just a one after match. Styles, of course, wins the match. Elias had Jackson Riker, who is such a fan favorite, and he did a botch. He botched I think it was the guitar shot or something like that, and it is what it is. But I don't know. It's Raw just it feels like Raw just kind of throw things together from time to time, just throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. I mean, last year we had AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan for the finals in the IC tournament, and now we have AJ Styles versus Elias. Let's see. So after that, then we get Charlotte Flair and Asuka versus Peyton Royce and Lacey Evans. I still don't understand why we broke up the Iconics just to put Peyton Royce into a tag team match with someone else. Because apparently Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce don't really like each other, so it makes no sense for them two to be a tag team when she was in a tag team with Billie Kay. And then we have Billie Kay with her resume going around looking for a tag team partner. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. They should have just kept them together, put them onto Raw, and then it'll make more sense to have the Iconics versus Charlotte Flair and Asuka. But, here we go. So we had Peyton Royce and Lacey Evans, who actually won the match. We had Ric Flair ringside. Lacey Evans was trying to get with Ric Flair because, I guess that's her thing. She wants dads or something. And then there was this spot where I guess Ric Flair, I don't know what this was for, but he tripped up Charlotte, and that's what got the pin by Peyton Royce. So then we have Charlotte and Ric Flair Charlotte kind of yelling at her dad. But I don't know what we're going to do with the tag team titles. I mean, I love the fact that Asuka is Asuka 2 belts now. But what's the point of putting Asuka in a tag team if she's not going to do anything with the Raw Women's title? I guess eventually they're going to build up the WrestleMania match of Charlotte versus Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship. And then she may just go on and win that. But the fact that the only thing that Charlotte has yet to do was to win the women's Money in the Bank contract, I think she might go after that this year because why not? But she's probably going to win the championship at WrestleMania anyway. Then after that, we had Riddle versus Bobby Lashley, which, it is what it is. Seems like they're eventually going to break up the Hurt Business, because we have Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander kind of going back and forth. We had MVP actually mention it, that they're having issues. Then they start yelling at each other. It looks like they may have Riddle eventually go after the United States Championship with Lashley. But I'm hoping that they keep the titles on the Hurt Business, because the Hurt Business finally got gold and felt like, they could be a lot more dominant. But unfortunately, now we have this bit of a tiff between Shelton and Cedric. So I don't know. But it's not really much for them to do, especially now that Retribution is kind of like going after Ricochet now. And I still don't really like Matt Riddle's gimmick. I wasn't really feeling his gimmick when he was in NXT. I mean, he's really good in the ring, but I really wasn't feeling his gimmick. And now I knew when they bring him up to the main roster, they're going to turn him into like this surfer type dude who constantly says bruh. I mean, he says it in NXT, but it wasn't as annoying as it is now with the bro nuts and whatever. So then we get to Dana Brooke versus Shayna Basler. And at first it was supposed to be Mandy Rose versus Shayna Basler. But as Mandy makes her way to the ring, Shayna starts attacking her, starts beating her down and everything like that. And then Dana Brooke comes out and stands up for her partner, says, come and face me. And the craziest thing is the fact that Dana Brooke won the match. I mean, after the match, Shayna, of course, put the clutch back on Basler. I mean, no, she put the clutch back on Dana Brooke because she had Dana Brooke in the clutch, and then Dana Brooke did a weird counter with a roll up and then won the match, which is so frustrating. I was such a big fan of Shayna Basler when she was in NXT, and I was slightly happy for her when she got called up because I was like, man, she could be dominating, stuff like that. Like, she could be similar to the booking of Ronda Rousey, where she's, dominant and everything like that. But man, oh man, I'm telling you, like, the booking sometimes gets very frustrating. It's just the difference between the way Shayna Basler was booked in NXT versus the way she is booked now. I mean, she's losing to Dana Brooke. And I'm sure that there are Dana Brooke fans out there. But come on. It's like Shayna Basler has a lot of potential. And they're not tapping into it because I don't know, Vince doesn't like her or something like that. But somebody really needs to like talk to Vince or something like that. Cause he has the talent. That's the thing. WWE has the talent so that they can do their numbers, because they tend to do things like Legends Night, stuff like that, when their numbers are starting to go down. You have the talent. It's just the stupid booking you can't get past. All you have to do is just give the wrestlers a little bit of creative control. I'm very sure they're not going to curse or anything, tell them not to do anything that will, cause any trouble. But if you just give people a little bit of creative freedom, whether it's with their gimmick or whether it's with their promo, it'll be like 20 times better. And I always say, wins and losses, of course, doesn't matter in WWE, as we see. We have Goldberg who comes back after losing the title and then immediately gets an automatic title shot at the Royal Rumble. The thing that I always say it with WWE is that it's dominance and it's TV time. If you're not dominant on TV, you kind of tend to lose, especially with the casuals. I mean, a lot of us fans who watch NXT and see these wrestlers grow in NXT, then get called up to the main roster, like, we know what Shayna is capable of. The casuals who, you know, their first seeing Shayna was her biting the neck of Becky Lynch and drawing blood and, you know, looking like a damn vampire from Twilight or something. And that's what they know her as. And then we see her, you know, progress to, I mean, she was very dominant leading up to WrestleMania, and then she loses the match. She kind of has, I think after that she was kind of going against Asuka. I forgot the transition to the tag team, honestly. But then she gets into the tag team, and then that's it. Like, we don't really, like, they have the talent. It's the craziest thing to me. And then we had a promo with Randy Orton where he explains that he was going to light Asuka on fire, but then he couldn't go through with it. And he mentioned the reason being is because the Fiend changed him. Normally, you know, when someone goes against the Fiend, they get changed. You know, I thought since Randy Orton encountered the Fiend that maybe he will turn into the Legend Killer like he used to be. But it looks like we're getting, you know, a more thoughtful Randy Orton. Randy Orton who stops and thinks about his enemies. But then he turned around and said, yeah, I thought Shayna and Nyla was beefing a little bit before the tag team. Thanks, Chris. I knew they were beefing a little bit, but I could have sworn she did something before they started beefing too. I could have sworn she had some type of a title shot or something before her and Nyla did. But maybe I'm just thinking about the WrestleMania match. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, it was the WrestleMania match. Then because Becky Lynch won the match, they really had nothing left for her, and so she kind of like disappeared. And then that's when they had the whole tag team thing with her and Nyla. So yeah, that's what it was. But with Randy Orton, now he hates himself, and he decided to turn his self-hatred towards his enemies, which I thought that's kind of what he is. You know, he has the voices in his head, and the voices tell him what to do. But okay, you know, we'll see what happens with this, whatever this change is going to be with Randy Orton. I mean, he went against Jeff Hardy. I love Jeff Hardy. I don't know what it is, but Jeff Hardy, it's not really. This match wasn't as exciting. Now, when Jeff Hardy was in the match with AJ Styles and Sami Zayn, that was great. But I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know if it's whenever he's not doing the high flying stuff, when he's like a lot more grounded, the matches aren't as exciting. Like, that could be what it is to me. But this match with him and Randy Orton, it wasn't that good. Maybe it's the Raw. Maybe it's Raw, you know? I don't know what it is. After that, we had the Lucha House Party versus the Hurt Business. And we had the Lucha House Party. We had the Lucha House Party went to NXT. And so it's just funny the way that people receive them, you know, going to NXT versus them on the main roster is night and day. This was a better match, though, versus Riddle and Lashley. And this was where MVP mentioned the issues with the Hurt Business because the Lucha House Party had won the match. And so I'm just hoping that they just keep the Hurt Business dominant. Like I said, I don't know what they're really going to do with the Hurt Business from here on, who their feud is going to be, especially with WrestleMania around the corner. But what I'm hoping is that, you know, whatever is happening at WrestleMania is kind of in writing. But with this whole situation with Goldberg and Drew McIntyre, I get the feeling that it's not. Especially since there might not be fans at WrestleMania. So we get a lot more of the legends backstage. We had Angel Garza, who was giving out roses because there's not really much for him to do except for, you know, go after the 24/7 championship and give out roses like he is on The Bachelorette. So he was walking around. Oh, he was trying to talk to Alicia Fox. He shows off the belt. And then he goes off and he says, "Oh, more legends." And then we see Tatanka, Sergeant Slaughter, and Mickie James. He gives the rose to Mickie James, mention how he's the 24/7 champion. And then Sergeant Slaughter takes the rose, smells it, and says, maggot. And then there was another segment where he came across Tori Wilson, and Tori Wilson was talking with Nikki Cross. He tried to give her a rose, and she was like, "Oh, you know, I actually invited Cardi B, Ariana Grande, and I forgot the third person who she mentioned." And she was like, "Yeah, they're right around the corner. If you just go right around the corner, you'll see them over there." I'm saying, like, how you going to you're name dropping now? And so he goes off into a corner. Of course, we lead into the boogeyman. Angel Garza walks out of the room. He gets pinned by R-Truth. And R-Truth is now the 24/7 champion. And obviously, they don't have much for Angel Garza to do, which is a damn shame, first off. But to do a bunch of backstage segments, like I said. Let's see. I feel like I'm forgetting another segment with legends, but I can't think of it now. So then we get to the main event, the WWE Championship match, Drew McIntyre versus Keith Lee. And this was an exciting match because Keith Lee was starting to do some of his high-flying stuff like he used to. He did a Spanish fly. A lot of selling. Keith Lee was attacking the ribs and the core. Keith Lee, you know, working over that part of the body. It was a lot of back and forth. It was really good. And I'm hoping this is the start of what they're trying to do with Keith Lee. Just let Keith Lee do his thing, you know. He's not really the big powerhouse like the Big Show and stuff like that. They're trying to make him to be. Just let him do his thing. He's a high flyer. He technically is a somewhat of a high flyer for someone his size. So just let him do his thing, and he'll put out great matches like we did here. Now, of course, I knew that Drew McIntyre will win the title, but they did have, you know, little parts here and there where you're like, you know, are they going to swerve us and have, you know, Keith Lee win it? So after the match, you know, Drew McIntyre showed respect to Keith Lee, and then here comes the music because, you know, it's WrestleMania season, and like the title of this episode, it's Goldberg. You know what that means. Title shot for the WrestleMania season. Holding the title so that his kid can see him as champion. I mean, if you ask me, I think he wants to make himself champion so he can beat up whatever wrestler his kid said is his favorite. That's how I feel about it. And of course, with Goldberg coming out, it kind of like negated what just happened, the great match between them. And then Goldberg cuts this weird promo saying how Drew McIntyre was disrespecting the legends. Oh, I forgot he had a segment backstage with Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart and Sheamus, and he was sitting there, you know, saying things with Hulk Hogan and definitely showing respect to the legend. So I don't know who wrote it. You know, maybe they was a little afraid. You know, Vince McMahon, you know, told them, hey, damn it, you better get this damn promo written for Goldberg, and they quickly signed it. I mean, it seemed like it was a promo he was supposed to cut to Roman Reigns, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, he was saying, you know, he's disrespecting the legend, stuff like that. And then, like I had said earlier, Drew McIntyre mentioned wrestling him would be like wrestling his dad. Goldberg pushes Drew McIntyre down like they're in, he pushed Drew McIntyre down like they were in the middle of a schoolyard, and then they cut the show. And I'm like, okay, well, great, you know, your champion looks really good here, against I forgot how old Goldberg is, but he is way too old to really continue to show dominance like that. Yeah, the promo made no sense, Chris. And then they cut off the show, and they went over with NXT this week, and you couldn't at least give us 3 minutes for Raw so that Drew McIntyre can say something. At least let Drew McIntyre slap the hell out of Goldberg or something, and let that be that. But no, that's what we get. I'm sure next week Drew McIntyre is going to cut a promo about Goldberg, and then it just goes from there. And I feel for Drew McIntyre. You know, he was the champion of the pandemic. He never had his chance to really be in front of a live crowd as champion, and so he never really he's the only champion to not feel the pop when he comes out as champion or when he won as champion. And I feel for him. And now, you know, as history is repeating himself, he's going to lose this title to Goldberg, and I hope he wins it back at some point in front of a crowd. The first British champion, and the first British major champion in WWE history, if I'm not mistaken. And he will never be able to share these moments in front of a live crowd. So that sucks. So going into NXT, we had a very good Wednesday. NXT New Year's Evil versus AEW's New Year's Smash. Now, New Year's Evil NXT, it felt like a straight up takeover. It was pretty good from beginning to end. AEW Dynamite, their New Year's Smash, it was pretty good. It did have some ups and downs. I feel as though the card wasn't as strong as NXT. Let me go through the card. Of course, we start off with a bang. We had Damien Priest versus Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross is back. We get to, you know, rock out to his entrance, which I feel like is the best entrance in NXT right now. This was a good match going back and forth. Damien Priest definitely showing his Razor Ramon influence with the Razor's Edge and things like that. And Karrion Kross, of course, looking dominant, looking really good. Of course, Karrion Kross wins this match. I feel like they're going to continue on with Karrion Kross versus Finn Balor. A lot of people want Karrion Kross versus the Demon Finn Balor, which definitely will be good on paper. I don't know how they're going to play it out for him to bring out the Demon. Maybe they'll do it by Karrion Kross constantly attacking Finn Balor, and then Finn Balor gets, you know, frustrated enough that he brings out the Demon. But this was a good match. I think they didn't have any commercial breaks during this match, so it was just straight wrestling, straight through, no weird commercials or anything like that. But this was a good match to start off the night. And then we had, for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship, Santos Escobar versus Gran Metalik. And who would have known, you know, like I said, the Lucha House Party on NXT, it's a lot different from them on the main roster. I mean, it was a very fun match. It wasn't really that much of a storyline, of course, but I would say it was a fun match. And then we get Xia Li, who comes out with Boa. And first of all, there's this figure that's sitting on the throne. Definitely gives me Mortal Kombat vibes when I saw it. I was ready to say finish him, you know, sitting in a chair with fall coming up, and then they did like they zoomed in on the face, and then when they zoomed out, you see Xia Li and Boa, and damn, look at Xia Li. I swear NXT just has this thing whenever they want to turn someone heel or bad, they just, especially with the women, they get like 20 times hotter. When you see it with Io Shirai, we see it with Rhea Ripley, and now with Xia Li. So I'm hoping that, you know, they'll do a lot more with Xia Li this time. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like she has potential there. But they just didn't really have anything for her. So, you know, Xia Li comes out. Of course, we've been seeing all these weird vignettes where they're getting punched and Xia Li is kicking Boa like 20,000 times, and you see her punching, and, you know, they're all bleeding and stuff like that. So, you know, my thinking, if you went through all that, maybe they should be no-selling some of this stuff. So it looks like that's where we're gonna go. I'm curious to see where this all goes. Like where is this going? What are we doing with this new gimmick? Don't know how this Mortal Kombat person kind of ties into everything. Don't even have a name. They just kept saying a mysterious figure. I think it's a woman. Not sure. But this was, you know, it was a squash match, which of course we knew it was because we have no idea. I think I've seen Katrina Cortez before, maybe, but, you know, I'm for whatever this is going to be for 2021. And then after that, we get the last woman standing, Ria Ripley versus Rachel Gonzalez. This was a very good match. I mean, I like Rachel Gonzalez. Like I said before, she kind of gives me some, like, not exactly, but some, like, China vibes she gives me. And so I feel as though, like, I felt as though, because they were teasing for her to go, like, for the title, and I felt as though she's not ready for that yet, because she has been with Dakota Kai, and she hasn't really kind of, like, you know, started her own singles path. And so with this match, I mean, damn, these two can fight for these two can continue with these matches, because this was a very good match. They went all over the place backstage. Very brutal match. There was a spot where I forgot, one of them went through a door. Rhea Ripley did a swanton bomb. Yeah, she's definitely gotten a lot better, Chris. Like, she was a bit iffy when she first started out, but she was giving me China vibes, definitely. And so she has gotten a lot better, which is one thing I love about NXT. I mean, I guess we're a lot more forgiving with NXT because it's considered quote-unquote developmental. So, you know, if someone's not really all the way there, they have, you know, we're a lot more forgiving to give them the chance to get better with wrestling or with their gimmick or something like that. You know, because sometimes people have to find what works for them. We've seen that a lot happen, you know. With Becky, she was fine, but she didn't really hit her peak until she became the man. Sasha Banks, especially in NXT, she didn't really hit her peak until she became the boss. So, you know, with Rachel Gonzalez, I feel as though she's still trying to figure herself out. Like, the talent is definitely there, but she has to figure herself out. And I felt that way a little bit with, oh my gosh, Bianca Belair. I felt like Bianca Belair, she has the talent, but, you know, it was something that just missing as far as her gimmick. Like, it didn't feel authentic, you know? And so she's definitely coming into her own, but she has the talent, of course. But it feels like, you know, something has to click for her. You know, I guess, like, not really 100% into the gimmick. You got to kind of tweak it a little bit to kind of make it your own. But this match was very good. Definitely shows why NXT has the best women's division in wrestling right now. And it feels like it's not even, like, it feels like it's talent, but it's just something with the booking of the matches. It feels like, because with the NXT women, they're not restricted to, like, women's type wrestling, if that makes sense. Like, we seen it with the matchup with Candice LeRae and Io Shirai, how that went brutal. With the women's war games, how that can get a lot more hard-hitting versus, slaps and, basic stuff that we would see on the main roster and even with other promotions. So this was definitely top of the class. So then we get like a bit of a promo, little segment with Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae, Austin Theory, and Indy Hartwell. And then we have Shotzi Blackheart, who comes out. Austin Theory starts telling her, don't come out here with that stuff. And she shoots him with the rocket in the with the army tank. And it definitely like took me back to one of those games games you would play at a carnival or something like that. As soon as I heard that noise, it definitely like took me back to that. So it led to Shotzi Blackheart then gets into the ring, and then Kashida comes out, which I was a little surprised about that. But I guess his connection with Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory kind of makes sense. So then we get the matchup with Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae versus Kashida and Shotzi Blackheart. Shotzi Blackheart, we all know, is going to be a superstar. She definitely has such a unique personality to her. And especially when she hosted Halloween Havoc, I mean, I'm sure she got like 10 times as many fans right now. But of course, this was a good match. The Garganos definitely know how to work the ring. Shotzi Blackheart, of course, and Kashida, who I love the fact that we are getting Kashida back more, if that makes sense. I mean, it feels like they weren't really using him as much in 2020. I'm hoping that Kashida will eventually start getting built up. Maybe even cool. I wanted to get Shotzi's shirt. I brought shirts like maybe 3 months ago, but I haven't. I gotta go through another round of shirts because I don't have any NXT shirts, and I did see Shotzi's shirt, but of course I have to get the NXT shirt and I have to get the Undisputed Era shirt before I get Shotzi's shirt. So, but yeah, it's cool you got the shirt, Chris. But I'm hoping that Kashida eventually gets built up for the NXT Championship. We have 2 of her shirts. Nice. Like I said, she is definitely a breakout star for NXT. And it kind of shows that, when eventually some of these women get called up, that the NXT women's division will continue to grow. And that's what's really good about the NXT women's division. Like, the 4 horsewomen are up on the main roster, and the NXT women's division is still really good, like top of the class. Like, even with the main roster having the 4 horsewomen, the NXT women's division is definitely blowing it out the park. And then we get to the main event, which was Finn Balor versus Kyle O'Reilly. And I love Kyle. Besides Adam Cole, he is my favorite in the Undisputed Era. And I love the fact that, as funny as Kyle is, he is showing how dominant and how serious and how hardcore he can get in the ring. And that's what I hope that they would do with Big E. Like, you can be funny, you can be funny and stuff like that, but you gotta cut it off once you get into the ring, That's what I'm hoping that they do with Big E. But the fact that this is the main roster that I'm talking about may not work. They may not do that. Maybe the fact that he's on SmackDown is more likely to happen. If he was on Raw, it would be like a cold chance in hell. But yeah, Kyle has been shining Kyle's really been shining a lot lately, Chris. And it makes sense for him to go up for the title, you know, especially the last time they went against each other. He was right up there with Finn Balor. Yeah, you have to have a healthy balance with serious and funny with Big E. And it works. Like with the New Day, like back in the day, they had their moments where they were funny and stuff, but when they started, especially that feud with the Usos, it was like night and day. So I'm hoping that's what they do with Big E, that, you know, he's funny, but once he gets into the ring, like straight dominant, like dominance, hardcore. But this match with Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor, beautiful. I mean, we had Finn Balor basically working on Kyle O'Reilly's jaw. So that storyline portion makes so much sense. And then the things that Finn Balor was doing to like put to injure his jaw too. I mean, he was pulling out moves that I'd never seen before. And that's what's always exciting whenever, you know, you kind of have a rematch between two people. You kind of want to see something you never saw before. And it wasn't even like, it's the little details that makes matches exciting. Like, yeah, he went after the jaw. Like, he put Kyle O'Reilly's face on the rope, had him biting down on the rope, and then Finn Balor kicked the rope. And it wasn't even just that. He was doing moves to, like, hurt his jaw more, and it was just like his whole plan was to break his jaw. I mean, he put him in a crossface, stuff like that. Kyle O'Reilly was sitting there, you know, hitting him with his kicks and stuff like that. Of course, you know, Finn Balor was Pele kicks, stuff like that. And he just, I mean, yeah, the chemistry between them two is fantastic. And whenever two people have really good chemistry, that means that there's the trust there between each other. And with stuff like that, you can make magic, you know. And that's why I feel like, you know, sometimes it's missing from, you know, other divisions or just with feuds in general. Like, whenever there's not the trust there, you have to respect each other. You have to trust each other when you're in the ring with each other. I mean, it's like a dance. You have two people who, you know, are able to trust each other. It's really good. I mean, you can have two people who's really good at wrestling, but whenever they come into the ring, it just doesn't work. And so with Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor, this was a really good match. Very good main event. And of course, I hope that this continues on. I hope this goes to the NXT TakeOver, which they announced what happened on Valentine's Day. So I don't know if they're going to come up with a cool name since it's on Valentine's Day, like TakeOver. Well, I was going to say Heartbreak, but, you know. Well, yeah, they could say Heartbreak because Shawn Michaels with NXT. Like, they can come up with something like that. But, of course, with this match, Finn Balor had won the match. He won by submission. He put Kyle O'Reilly into, like, this abdominal stretch, and he was yanking at the jaw to force him to tap out. I mean, it was really good. Yeah, I think they announced it this morning or something like that, Chris. They announced that TakeOver is going to be on Valentine's Day. And so I'm down. I don't really celebrate Valentine's Day, so I am all good for, you know, watching some NXT TakeOver. Feel bad for all those who celebrate, all the wrestling fans who celebrate Valentine's Day. You're going to miss out because you have to take your sweetheart. Well, no, we're in the middle of the pandemic, so you can't even take someone out to dinner. If you're smart, though, you can say, hey, baby, you know, I'm going to cook for you, and we're going to watch something together. You could put on NXT TakeOver and have a romantic dinner that way. Just a thought for you guys. So going into AEW Dynamite, New Year's Smash, they showed footage from... Now, I don't know if this happened on AEW Dark or if it's like extra material, but -1 Brody Lee Jr. had cut a promo against Marco Stunt. I would have to say, for an 8-year-old, the promo was pretty good. And of course, if you haven't seen, all over social media, you see Brody Lee Jr. Training and of course hitting people with his kendo stick. Yeah, it did happen on Dark. Yeah, I wasn't sure if they actually happened on Dark. Like, I don't know how to feel that they're putting him on AEW Dark. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because he has the contract. So, you know, but it's an 8-year-old child, I have to say. But, you know, I understand. I'm not trying to be mean about it or something like that. Like, I understand, but I don't know about him being put on TV like that. That's all. Like, you do it for YouTube, you know, backstage stuff like we've been seeing. Like on I saw it on YouTube for Sammy Guevara's vlog. It was him and I forgot who else was with him. And you see Brody Lee comes in and goes, "What the hell is going on in here?" Sounding just like his dad. And then he says, "Where's my he's like, 10, bring me my stupid kendo stick." And then of course he used the kendo stick to start beating up Sammy Guevara and whoever was with him. And then he turned and started beating up the Dark Order with the kendo stick too. It was hilarious. And I see what they're saying about how, like, he's going to get really good as he grow up, because he's pretty good right now. I mean, I'm very glad. Like, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do anything with him at all. It feels like he is having the time of his life, which I really hope that he is, because he went through a straight up tragedy at such a young age. But it seems like he's having the time of his life, and I love that. And especially if he definitely wants to be a wrestler, which it seems like he does, do it. I mean, he has 2 families that will definitely train him, you know, with AEW and the WWE. Well, let's get into what happened on New Year's Evil. So, we had Chris Jericho on commentary. We started off with the Young Bucks and SCU versus the Acclaim and the Hybrid 2. I don't know how to feel about the Acclaim. They straight up given me John Cena Thuganomics vibes with the rap to the ring type of situation. Maybe it has to grow on me. Maybe because, you know, we haven't really seen it since John Cena had done it. So maybe it has to grow on me. And maybe the rap jokes will grow on me. Especially people don't really rap like that anymore. I mean, I don't know what it's called. I know I'm showing my age right now because I don't know what today's rap is called, but, you know, people don't rap like that anymore. But, you know, they're definitely having this feud between the Young Bucks. Eventually, they're going to go after the title. I think the next pay-per-view with AEW is next month, too. Maybe March. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's Revolution that's coming up. This was a 6-man... this was a 8-man tag team match. AEW loves the tag teams. Love to throw people in tag teams. This was okay to start off with. The Young Bucks, of course, knows how to throw down the ring. I love tag teams, but it's just when they start the 4-man, the 6-man, the 12-man tag team matches, it kind of gets a little bit tiring after a while. But it was a fun match to watch, I have to say. We had Jon Moxley, who returned. The character of Jon Moxley from Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley, complete night and day. And this is what I mean when you say you give people a little bit of creative control. I mean, how popular is he now as Jon Moxley versus what he was as Dean Ambrose? You know what I mean? But of course, Jon Moxley vows to get his AEW championship match. He cut a promo, you know, addressing Kenny Omega and Don Callis, of course. And he mentioned how Omega is not safe. And that was that. I mean, very good promo. Okay, it is Revolution on February 27th. Thanks, Chris. So we get 2 pay-per-view events. Well, 3. With, what is it? I think it's Elimination Chamber, then that WWE will put out. Yeah, it'll be Elimination Chamber. because WrestleMania is in late March this year. So it'll be Elimination Chamber in February. So we'll get 3 pay-per-view events in February. And I'm hoping that... Now, I didn't check to see when the date's going to be. I mean, they're more likely change it since there won't be any fans there. But I'm hoping it's nothing crazy like they did last year, where AEW was on a Saturday and WWE was on a Sunday. And so you had wrestling literally 6 days a week. That's a lot. But Jon Moxley did good in his promo. So then after that, we get Warlow versus Jake Hager. I like Warlow. We don't really see him that much. I didn't realize his move is the F10. when they mentioned the F10, I was like, wow, hopefully Vince doesn't hear about that and sit there and get upset about the fact that it's called an F10 as opposed to an F5. But this was a good match. The chance for Jake Hager and Warlow to get whatever frustrations they have from staring at each other whenever they're in the room. So they got that aggression out, and the Inner Circle was standing ringside watching this match. Chris Jericho was pretty funny on commentary, and we had Warlow who won, which I definitely agree with. I feel as though Warlow is a lot better than Jake Hager. Jake Hager, I don't know. Jake Hager he kind of like stands there for me. He's pretty funny on being the elite, but in the ring, it's something missing. I liked him back when he was teaming up with Cesaro. And since he left Cesaro, it just feels like with him, like something is missing. Maybe because Cesaro, him being with Cesaro, it kind of like bettered him in the ring. I don't know. Out of all the people in the Inner Circle, Jake Hager is the one who really, I don't really get. But, I give them props for trying. So after that, we get Darby Allin and Brian Cage, who does a weigh-in. We had Tony Schiavone was in the ring, and Brian Cage, who was there with Team Taz. Brian Cage was gonna get weighed in, and so Taz was like, why does he go first? He's like, I get that he's the challenger, but why does he have to go first? And so they weighed, I think they weighed Cage first, something like that. He was like 200 something, and then they weighed poor Darby Allin. I think Darby Allin was like 100. I don't even know how much it was. I missed how much he weighed. But then Taz was like, well, of course he weighs that much. He's wearing a jacket. He has this, that, and the third. He's wearing, he has this, that, and the third on. So that's when Darby started to cut a promo as well. And we saw the new TNT Championship. I was a little surprised that they mentioned it. Well, no, Tony Schiavone mentioned it, but the camera really didn't show what the title actually looks like. I saw that it looks like, regular, the black and I think it was silver, but you see the red. It's a little bit of red in it too. It looks really good compared to the original belt. So I am kind of happy that they got rid of that red belt. That red and gold really, I think it was red and silver actually, really didn't look right, but the new design looks a heck of a lot better. So of course, Team Taz was about to jump Darby. Before they did that, the lights go out, the snow was falling, and out comes Sting. And I'm completely fine with this. I love the fact that Sting is teaming up with Darby. There's a lot of similarities between them. And Sting is there as a bit of a mentor for Darby Allin. And, wherever this storyline goes, if this leads to Sting turning on Darby, and then we get the two of them in the ring or something. Because the rumor is that they're trying to get Sting to get into the ring. I don't know how it's going to work out, like I keep saying. But I'm not going to say anything. Maybe he'll surprise us with something. Who knows? Maybe he's been wrestling this whole time. Who knows? So after that, we get Cody Rhodes versus Matt Sydal. And this is where Snoop Dogg comes out. Now, Snoop Dogg was in a backstage segment with Matt Hardy and Private Party. Matt Hardy getting Private Party to sign a contract for him to be their mentor or their manager. I forgot exactly what it was. He gets like 30% of their earnings each. And Snoop Dogg was just kind of standing there like, oh, yeah. And because Matt Hardy was like, yeah, don't you want to be a king like Snoop Dogg? And I'm sitting here like, yeah, Snoop Dogg don't really use the word king, but okay. Snoop Dogg's like, yeah, yeah. But here is where Snoop Dogg actually shows up. Now, I guess I thought they were going to put him on commentary, but then I thought about it and I was like, well, I guess it don't really make sense for him to be on commentary if he doesn't really know everyone. But of course he knows who Cody Rhodes is because they're on this show together, Go Big or Go Show or something like that. I forgot what it's called. But this match with Cody and Matt, who Matt will never live down the fact that he completely botched in his debut. This was a fine match. I thought it would be a lot better. I mean, there was some high flying in there. Cody being Cody, you know, really good in the ring as far as like story, you know, selling things, stuff like that. But of course, Cody wins the match, and then comes the spot where Snoop Dogg goes on the top rope, and they say it's a splash, but I say it's not a splash. It was basically him jumping down off the rope onto his 2 feet and then laying on Matt. I mean, not Matt. Luther came out with, I forgot who the other guy's name is. Snoop Dogg did it on Luther's tag team partner. That's who he did it with. I was about to say Matt, but he didn't do it on Matt. I guess, you know, for him to do the spot, in my opinion, I think he should have went to the same wrestling school that Pat McAfee went to, especially when he cut the promo that he only learned how to wrestle for 2 weeks. I mean, Snoop Dogg was announced more than 2 weeks ago. He could have definitely rung up Pat McAfee. Hey, Pat, where did you learn how to wrestle? Ship me over there, and then maybe would have got a better splash out of Snoop Dogg. I mean, I really shouldn't talk crap because I probably would have done a worse job trying to do a splash. But knowing me, I probably went in the top rope and probably tried to do the shooting star splash or something like that, and then probably broke my neck or something trying to, you know, do a big spot. But I guess kudos to Snoop for doing something for them to put on social media, but that wasn't a very good splash. At least Cody can show him like the proper way to do it, but you know, I guess, you know, like I said, you know, when it comes to celebrities in wrestling, they, you know, it is what it is. So I still give props to Pat McAfee for doing a lot more than what he's supposed to be, because normally what we saw with Snoop Dogg is what we normally get from some celebrities when it comes to wrestling. After that, we get the AEW Women's Championship match, Hakushita versus Abaddon. Abaddon definitely has such a great look. But I don't know what it is with AEW and their women's division. They just don't. I feel like at this point, they're just not giving them a real chance to shine. This match between them two was very short. I didn't even get how much time, how long this match was for, but they did this whole commercial break in the middle of the match. I don't know if they did the picture-in-picture that like Jim Ross loved to say and loved to promote, but this match wasn't as exciting as their first match. And it's pretty much a shame because AEW's women's division definitely needs a boost. I mean, their women's division, I would have to say, is the worst in wrestling right now. And they have the talent. They show it can be done. You know, with Shida versus Thunder Rosa. We have, you know, with Britt Baker being in, you know, her new heel gimmick is definitely working. Like, they have the talent to do it. I don't get what it is that's not happening. I mean, they have this whole AEW heels, and they have this thing with the female wrestlers. Well, if you're going to have this whole thing with the female wrestlers and try to include not female wrestlers, female wrestling fans, and try to include female wrestling fans and things, give us something to actually watch as a female. You putting on a women's championship match is not even giving it the time to shine. It kind of does a disservice for this AEW heels. I think instead of doing the AEW heels, you definitely put all that energy into the women's division, and then you can do this AEW heels thing with the meet and greets and stuff like that. But the fact that, you know, a championship match like this, you don't really give it that much time. Now, I hope that 2021, because I hope 2021 they kind of give their women's division a lot more. They have Thunder Rosa. I always said that AEW definitely needs Thunder Rosa in their corner, and so she can definitely help that division. But if you're not even giving the women like a chance to shine, what's the point? Yeah, I mean, what's the point of having Thunder Rosa there if you're not giving the women's division a shine? All the energy they put into the tag team division, they have a great tag team division, they have a great men's roster, all these faction stuff like that. Just give an ounce of it to the women. After that, we have the main event, which was for the AEW World Championship match, Rey Fenix versus Kenny Omega. I watched AEW Dynamite live, and then I watched NXT this morning because I knew this match was happening, and I love Rey Fenix, and Kenny Omega is so good in his gimmick as the cleaner. And I said this before, if you haven't listened to the intro that Justin Roberts does, it's so good because it's the Kenny Omega facts, and he does different facts every time. He mentioned this time that Kenny Omega is undefeated in the year 2020, and that Jon Moxley is jealous because Kenny Omega is undefeated in 2020. Since even though Kenny Omega has had the title for like 30-something days, he is considered the best AEW championship in history, and it's like, you know, people love him from such and such to such and such, and it says including such and such where he lives, and then he mentioned that he hails from Canada, and that got a big pop out of Chris Jericho. It's so funny, and it fits him. It fits the gimmick, and I love it. Like, every time Kenny Omega comes out, I'm like really listening to what Justin Roberts says. So of course we get the two sweeper women. I think it was 2 this time. I mean, he's been having 4 since he won the title, but I think it was just 2. He comes out, and then the match with him and Rey Fenix. Rey Fenix is so good. This match is really good. Even though we knew that Kenny Omega would more likely win this match still was like close pinfalls, stuff like that. Rey Fenix, I keep saying, is not a human being. The moves and stuff that he does in the ring is just magical. And then the fact that Kenny Omega, with his hard hitting and stuff like that, is so much closer to what he was in New Japan. And I'm very excited that we get to see this Kenny Omega, because when he came over to AEW, now I don't really watch New Japan like that, but I knew who Kenny Omega was, and I knew about the Bullet Club and stuff like that. I knew what Kenny Omega. I did see some Kenny Omega's matches, but I really I don't have that much time to really invest into New Japan. And so when they started AEW and Kenny Omega is there, I'm like, oh, cool. I get to really check out Kenny Omega, who I've been seeing and hearing about all this time. And so when he got to AEW and, started stuff like that, I felt as though he wasn't 100%. And now, since he won the title and he has this new gimmick and we get the cleaner and stuff like that, I feel like he's at 100%. But Rey Fenix versus him, oh man, like, that was such a good match. The fact that we had this main event versus NXT main event, like I said before, when I was talking about this date, January 6th, I said it's going to be a great day to be a wrestling fan, because I knew that both companies was going to bring it. NXT pretty much put on an NXT takeover event. AEW putting on matches, especially a match like this. This was really good. So then after the match, of course, Kenny Omega wins. Don Callis gets on the mic, mentions how no one is going to help him, and because Rey Fenix is in the Death Triangle, and so we would have Pac and Pentagon, or Penta L0, he is now called. And so then they showed on the Titantron, it was Eddie Kingston, Butcher and the Blade beating up Pac and Penta L0. And so Don then told Omega to finish off Phoenix. And then that's when Jon Moxley comes out with a barbed wire baseball bat and starts hitting Jon Moxley. And then, first of all, we have Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, who comes to the ring, the Good Brothers, and I'm like, oh snap, this is really good. And, because we have the NXT crossover, not NXT crossover, Impact Wrestling crossover, and they're the tag team champions over there. And I'm like, oh cool, we get this crossover going the other way now, since Kenny Omega went over to Impact. Now we got the Good Brothers coming over to AEW Dynamite. They all start attacking Jon Moxley with the barbed wire baseball bat, and they did the Magic Killer and stuff like that. And then we get the Young Bucks, who comes out, and Brian Pillman and Griff Garrison comes out to try to help out. They went to hold Kenny Omega, I think it was. They held him against the ropes, and the Young Bucks were kind of like in a tough spot, because they know Kenny Omega is technically a heel, but they're like trying to control everything that's going on. So when Kenny Omega was being held back, the Young Bucks super kicked them, and I'm like, oh snap, we're getting a whole nother faction now. And then towards the end, of course, they hold up the Too Sweet hand gesture, because they were all in the Bullet Club. I forgot who it was. I don't know if it was I don't know. I think it was Chris Jericho who mentioned the 5 of them haven't been in the ring together since they were in the Bullet Club. And of course, they put up the Too Sweet gesture. I was trying to figure out if Vince McMahon was losing his mind whenever he got word of it. And then the Young Bucks put up the Too Sweet sign. And so I was like, oh, that's, cool that we kind of get the quote unquote Bullet Club reunion. But I was like, we already have a heel faction. We can't have another heel faction. Like, AEW loves their factions, but they have too many heels now. Now we have the Inner Circle, we have Team Taz, we have Eddie Kingston's faction, and now we got Kenny Omega and his faction. And it's like, it's too many damn heels. Who's gonna team up to go against all these people? But, I guess they have a plan. I'm not gonna complain too much, because even though we have all these heel factions, it works. I mean, Inner Circle is really good. Inner Circle is put over, especially Sammy Guevara. Team Taz, we got Will Hobbs. I mean, there's a lot more eyes going for Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. Eddie Kingston, definitely feel like, especially when you had the Lucha Bros, it kind of put Eddie Kingston on the map. I mean, we knew Eddie Kingston was going to be on the map anyway. Who else I said? I think that's all of them. But yeah, it just feels like it's too many of them. And if you haven't watched Being the Elite, definitely check it out. They did, of course, a full tribute show of Brody Lee, and they showed all the bits of Brody Lee on Being the Elite. And if you never saw Being the Elite, you should definitely check out that episode. Brody Lee and Dark Order were so good on Being the Elite. It was definitely funny. I was glad that it didn't tie over to AEW Dynamite. I know some people were a little upset that they were very jokey, but it didn't feel like it kind of went over to AEW Dynamite. And then the last one, they showed Eddie Kingston, who gave a great speech to the whole crowd. Yeah, it was really good, Chris. They showed Eddie Kingston not cutting a promo, but he gave a speech to the roster. I don't know if this was before Dynamite or after Dynamite, but it was so passionate. He was sitting there telling people, tell people you love them, hug your people, and, be a better, I forgot how he said it, but it was something along the lines of our parents, something along the lines about our parents. And he mentioned how it took his dad 55 years to tell him that he loves him. I was like, damn. And he was cutting such a passionate speech. He was like, motherfucking Brody Lee got me talking out here to all you guys. But it was really good. I mean, definitely a lot of respect for Eddie Kingston from that. And it's really cool with Being the Elite because you don't really get to see stuff like that. You don't get really to see things that are happening backstage. And that was one of the things I really liked that AEW started to do. They started to do this whole series of, I think it was Road to Double or Nothing. And you got to know the wrestlers behind the gimmick. They definitely highlighted Darby Allin, if I remember correctly, in different people. And it kind of makes you respect the person more, I mean, that was the big thing. That's one of the big things with NXT. Whether they're a heel or whether they're a face, you respect the character a lot more. You respect the person a lot more. Even though the Undisputed Era were heels, a lot of people were fans of them because how good they are in the ring. And so with AEW Dynamite, you don't really know these wrestlers, and so when you see things like that of them being backstage, it kind of brings things full circle, and it gives it creates a lot more respect for them as well. But this was a very good week. We have SmackDown coming up. I didn't really get to see the matches that are listed. Of course, we're going to get more of the Tribal Chief, the head of the table, Roman Reigns with Jey Uso. I can't wait for Jimmy Uso to come back. What I'm really hoping would happen is for Jimmy Uso to come back as a face and kind of try to convince his brother to get away from Roman Reigns. And then Roman Reigns, before he gets Jimmy Uso to join his side, to have Jey Uso go after Jimmy Uso. We have yet to see the Usos go against each other. If Jimmy Uso can come back in time, that is a WrestleMania match. Jimmy Uso versus Jey Uso. Like I always say, best friends and family members make the greatest of feuds, because you can kind of push the envelope with each other, but it's all out of love and respect. Let's see. So for SmackDown coming up, we have Big E versus Apollo Crews for the IC Championship. I'm going to go with Big E on that one. Apollo Crews still doesn't do it for me. I think he should turn heel. I liked him. He's very good in the ring, but he needs a lot more than just the guy who smiles and can wrestle. He needs some type of personality. The whole I'm smiling, I'm happy thing really doesn't do it for me. I think they should turn him heel. I was very happy when Cedric Alexander turned heel, because it definitely gave him, it made him more of a person, I guess I should say. No one is smiling and happy all the time. So it definitely turned me off for Apollo Crews. I'm hoping Apollo Crews kind of turns heel or something like that, or get a personality. We have the Street Profits versus the Dirty Dogs, Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. I did see that they have a shirt that says Dirty Dogs. I guess it's a play on Cleveland. Isn't Dolph Ziggler from Cleveland or something like that? The Cleveland Browns, they call themselves the Dogs. I bet you Dolph Ziggler came up with the name if he is from Cleveland. So they're going against each other for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship, still sticking with the Street Profits. Let's see. That's pretty much it for what I see that is announced so far. But this is the road to the Royal Rumble. Daniel Bryan had mentioned that he's entering the Royal Rumble. And then we have the Dusty Tag Team Classic. We have the Women's Dusty Tag Team Championship, which I'm excited for. I guess we'll see a lot more women that we don't really see that often on NXT TV that will get their chance to shine as well. But we're entering into... Yeah, he is from Cleveland. So it's the Cleveland Browns, the Dog Pound. Yeah, Dolph Ziggler came up with that name. As soon as I saw that name, I was like, dogs. I was like, is they talking about like Cleveland Brown type dogs? Yeah. But yeah, I'm excited for the Women's Dusty Classic. We'll see who teams up with who, what newcomers. I feel like this is a perfect opportunity if they have someone who, is on the roster and just never had a chance to really be on TV. Because, normally people who don't really have a name gets put on TV just to get squashed. So if they really want to introduce women to the audience, this is the perfect time to do it. I mean, they've done it plenty of times with the Mae Young Classic. So I'm very sure with the Dusty Classic that they're going to introduce women that we haven't seen before. So I am all for that. But that's it for the WrestleBread podcast. Thank you so much for listening, especially my name is Chris and anyone else who is listening live. Thank you so much for listening. Let me give some shout outs. Shout out to Julian Rob Bass from the Wrestling Court podcast and UnturnedMinds.com. I think last week I mistakenly said WrestleBread as I was like rushing while I was saying, as I was speaking fast. But it's actually Wrestling Court podcast and UnturnedMinds.com. Keita and Jay from the Keita and Jay Show. Chris, when we talk next podcast. I just realized, Chris, I did not send you my picks. He does. He has his own blog where he talks football as well. I will give you my picks. I apologize. Nando and Larry from Half K Podcast. Devin and Hafiz from Clark Street Wrestling Podcast. Be sure to check out their YouTube channel as well. And my boys over at Powerbomb Jitsu. Coming up next week, I'm going to decide. I think I might stick with Thursdays at 9 o'clock. So I think I am going to stick with Thursdays because it is fun to talk about AEW Dynamite and NXT versus waiting a whole week to talk about it. So for 2021, I'll be live on Thursdays at 9 o'clock from now on. So coming next week, I'll be talking about night 2 of New Year's Smash, and I don't think NXT is doing a part 2 of their event, so I'll be talking about whatever happens on NXT because we are now moving on for the Royal Rumble. Hopefully we get more people who are entering the Royal Rumble and we get a few more matches for the Royal Rumble as well. Be sure to hop on Twitter and follow me at Jaydee Talks. That's Jayde Talks, and follow the podcast as well. Leave a review. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you feel about what's been going on in wrestling. And until next time, guys, peace.